Always, we'll just wait a second for a few people to join in, and I'll start sharing my screen in advance. And so let's get going. Okay, so thanks again, everyone, for joining. So today's town hall, as always, is being recorded. You probably already see that. You probably got a notification when you joined in. We're also live streaming today's town hall. So if you get disconnected from Zoom at any time, just head on over to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to catch up on everything there. That goes the same if there's any audio issues or anything like that. We always encourage you to just go over to YouTube and check out the live stream there. I'll keep an eye on any questions coming via YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for anyone watching on the live streams, and I'll ask them to our panelists. As always, we're going to have some company and product updates from our team, and then we'll move into the audience Q&A. If you do have any questions throughout the session, please try to use the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screen. That's the best way to ask us questions, because that's easier for our team to actually see them and respond to them. And then finally, at the end, we'll ask you to use the reaction button at the bottom to raise your hand if you'd like to come on stage to ask a question. That's pretty much it from me. I'll do the casual display of the disclaimer as always, and then I'm going to hand over to Andrew for some updates about Vrbo.
Standing in for Pierre this week. And yes, hopefully not the topic du jour, but something that we wanted to just nip in the bud. Yes, we are aware there have been some recent intermittent delays, some outages on Vrbo. I'm not going to rehash the entire context that we covered in the previous town hall. You can catch up. My cat says hi. You can catch up with that on YouTube. So we do record and push these all to YouTube. So last week, Pierre covered kind of the bigger context about why it is that we're doing what we're doing, why it's important, etc., and what we're doing about the current situation. So message today, again, not going to repeat everything, but we are fighting the good fight, meaning we've got our best developers on this right now. They are losing sleep, and we know this is important to you. And yeah, we are trying to keep the connectivity open with Vrbo in a pretty antagonistic relationship right now. So looking slightly longer term, I am flying to Madrid tomorrow to meet with their global head of connectivity. The agenda very much is both near term, midterm, and longer term, our relationship. And yes, we are working on an official integration, and the but is where I will recycle one slide from last week, in that we really are trying to lay a line in the sand about how Vrbo needs to work for our hosts. We as a company, our mission is not just to be a PMS, it's to be a force for good in the industry and democratizing access to things. That's not just big property managers that have a big PMS system in place. It's property owners, it's real estate investors, it's your host of 1, 2, 3 properties. These people are not always served by the current integration, and so we will continue to push on that in the meeting that I'm having tomorrow with also our head of sales. It needs to be available to everyone. It needs to work for our customers. That means no listing threshold. That means it shouldn't make you have to transfer listing ownership to a PM if you're an owner. There are hosts that communicate to us that they have access to official, or they've had it in the past, and it just doesn't work for them. And so we're really trying to advocate for you. That does come at a cost sometimes, and yeah, we feel your pain when it is difficult to connect, but we are trying to fix that. We need to be fast to connect. Right now with Vrbo Official, if we had it today, you could expect a long downtime while you try and transfer over to a professional listing, get those listings vetted, manually added by Vrbo, all those things. We're trying to prevent you from having to do that, and no setup or change of behavior. I had an office hour call on Monday with a host, longtime Hospitable customer. She actually churned because we weren't meeting her needs on metrics at the time. I think she's now in the process of moving back to Hospitable. She has access on her PMS to Vrbo Official and refuses to use it. She uses an iCal implementation on Vrbo, which means she's paying for a PMS to manage her messaging, to manage her calendar, her pricing changes, everything, but chooses to have an iCal integration to Vrbo and put up with all the pain. That means messaging through their app, not through the PMS, not using stored messaging rules, etc., manually changing prices, calendar by calendar, property by property. This is a large property manager, because it is not functional for them. And we've heard that message. And I know, yeah, it's tough when we have issues with our special kind of connectivity we have with Vrbo. But yeah, there's not much we can handle in the Q&A about it. At the moment, it seems like the fix we have is working. We don't expect that to necessarily be stable, but we're working on it. We're working on first a short-term solution, later a midterm solution that makes us more resilient when we do have issues like this. And longer term, we are offering, basically to be a design partner for Vrbo to help them address the property owner segment of the market, like we think it needs to be addressed. So that's my conversation tomorrow with them. We'll be reporting back on that more here. And yeah, hopefully we have better updates about the near term reliability of the product. But we're on it. Yeah, enough about Vrbo. So on the direct side, not too many major updates. I think last week we had a big webinar. That was probably the biggest thing to shout. Google was great. They made 2 of their top people on the EMA travel team available to us. They spent an hour with us, which was great. We covered a lot of things. Unfortunately, due to PR concerns, Google is a publicly traded and a big company. We weren't able to get permission to record and share that. So I'm sorry. What we are doing now is putting all of the notes from that into a blog post to share. That was our biggest registration for an event so far to date. So we broke records there. I think we broke records on live attendance too. We almost hit the cap for what Zoom gives us. I'll share a couple notes here from that webinar. So they went through the whole travel journey. I think that was helpful for anyone that doesn't use Google Travel as a guest. If you haven't seen kind of where people interact with your inventory as a vacation rental owner, that was helpful to have them walk us through that. But the more actionable intelligence for us, they explain the difference between Google Business and Google Travel. This has come up in town halls before. I have my vacation rental on Google Business. I built up reviews there. How can I migrate that to Google Travel? The answer we gave then and the answer confirmed by Google is that you can't. They're different entities. Google Business, you should have operating hours. You should have basically a front desk or receptionist. You should have an actual business front. Vacation rentals are not included in that, and they don't have any connectivity between those 2 systems. You aren't supposed to have vacation rentals, even if you snuck on to Google Business. They are shutting those listings down. That was validated. You should be on Google Travel, and you need a connectivity partner like Hospitable to get your listing there. We tried to ask questions about listing aggregators. Some of you have brought up, hey, my listing is on Blue Pillow, on Bring Fido, on this. I don't have a relationship with them. That has nothing to do with Google. It has nothing to do with Hospitable. It has everything to do with some of the OTAs you work with, and they make redistribution arrangements with their parties. And there's probably nothing you can do as a host to like remove your listing from one of those link aggregators or listing aggregators. Those are business relationships that the OTAs make. So yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do with those, but nice to have some clarity there. Short-term rental versus midterm rental. Google is not, I guess, insinuating they're making any movement into a midterm rental play. Google Travel is travel. That means less than 30 days. So anyone listing their properties from Hospitable onto Google Vacation Rentals, just take note, it is a 30-day maximum length of stay. There is not a midterm rental platform yet, and that probably isn't going to change. And the last point, not something we really talked about so much in the webinar, but performance on GVR is really off the charts. It's been a long effort on our side, getting everyone's properties in, any issues that we had, getting people's properties ingested in GVR, and then the actual performance. So making sure we're getting the right attributes, making sure we're sending those aggregated review scores and all that. It's paying off. Direct is on fire right now. In the first 16 days of the year on premium, we already cleared $1 million in bookings for hosts. That's way up from where we were at. So that's it's been exciting, and that must be really due to GVR. So if you're not on it, get on it. It's free. It's free lead gen for you. It works for anybody with direct basic or direct premium. Moving on. Quotes is live. We haven't made a big deal about it yet because we did find a few kind of edge cases that we wanted to fix and optimize before we made a big announcement about it. So you have that now. I'll walk you through very quickly the screens on how it works, but it's live for all direct basic and premium users. And yeah, I think we just solved the last issue. I haven't had a chance to validate it yet, but we had an issue with when you had a length of stay discount, so a week or a month discount. There was some lack of clarity in how that affected a quote. So that should have just been fixed. I'll validate that. And then the next item up is to integrate that with premium verifications so we can avoid those. And let's just walk through this real quick. So for quotes, if you haven't used them yet, you start by adding what used to be only a manual booking. Now you have an option to add a direct booking too. So highlight some dates on the calendar. The right sidebar is going to come up in your display, and then you can click add a direct booking. And that's going to take you to a very familiar screen, the manual booking screen, except it searches your past guests now. So you can then enter in guest details. And if it's a guest that already stayed with you, we'll save you time there. That looks familiar. Next screen is where you'll get into quote specific content. So we're going to show you in that second column there, you're going to see your current rates. That's going to show you what your property is listing for on your direct site at that moment, at that price, kind of your retail price. And then you can change as many of those values as you control. So not taxes, not guest service fee, but you can enter in custom values for those. You can enter in additional fees and then agree on that rate that you set custom for your guest. You're going to then decide how much time you want to give them to pay. So up to a week, but yeah, 24 hours is a default value. Hit continue and then hit confirm. And what's going to happen is you're going to, on the next slide, thank you. We're going to email your guest for you and tell them basically you've got 24 hours, 48 hours. Here's a link to book and pay. And they're going to have all the data already filled out for them. They're just going to enter in their credit card. They're going to see your cancellation policy. They're going to see the premium terms of service, et cetera, and pay. And then that's going to convert from what was a pending reservation. So you're going to see this on the calendar. There's no action to take. It's just a waiting payment from the guest. You can always cancel it. But that pending quote then turns into a confirmed reservation once the guest takes payment. If it doesn't, you don't have to manage this. You don't have to remove a block. If they don't pay in time, it just expires and the calendar's cleared and anyone else is now available to book those dates. That's how quotes work. That has been live. We've just been quiet about it because we wanted to get those edge cases taken care of. And as far as I know, they're all taken care of now. Otherwise with direct, we've got a couple of the things that are in progress still. One of which is this is a popular host feedback that we've gotten in previous town halls. Our email templates are not pretty. Emails are used just for manual and direct channels. So this is in progress right now. We've been doing some design work. First, we're going to update you to a modern template. We're going to let you choose a different display name. So you're going to be able to personalize that, choose a subject line. So we'll give you a little bit of choices about how you want those emails to be titled. Later, a custom domain itself. And this kind of gets into brands. And so we realize there's a lot of kind of aggregated or functionality that could be aggregated. And it's not just stuff that applies to direct. So when you think about the concept of a brand in Hospitable, it's not just your direct site and your custom domain you have for that. What if, when you're sharing links to your metrics pages, those public links you can share to metrics now, what if those were hosted on your own domain? And what if they were kind of skinned or styled with your brand colors? And so if you could just set your kind of primary and secondary colors, your logo in one place in Hospitable and your settings, that could then update your public metrics link. It could update your direct site. It could update your email templates. It could update your GVR branding. So you can publish your personal brand to GVR. And it could update your guest portal. So that kind of that online itinerary that we've talked about in the past for direct. We kind of realized this week that that's a really trivial task for us now with the kind of pieces that we have in play. And all of those things we can kind of start to consolidate around this concept of a brand for hosts, not just for property managers, but also for hosts that are kind of just starting out and being more professional. So we're really excited about this concept of brands and Hospitable. And I think the email templates are the first place we'll start. And you'll start to see that in action because those templates are bad. We know that, and we're going to fix that. Otherwise on direct, almost done. Last slide for me. Good progress on our new website builder. If you missed these updates before, we are completely ripping out our sites. We're replacing them with something that is much faster, much better SEO optimization, and more importantly, that we control ourselves entirely. We were kind of locked into a vendor for a long time. We now have an alternative. And once we get those out and we kind of update all the existing site templates with a replacement that's better, we also have an open roadmap to make easy iterations and really just small iterative improvements. We've been blocked from really being able to do that for the longest time. So that's going to open up a lot of improvements on the sites that we manage. Otherwise, payment installments, meaning multiple payments, that's coming. Tax filing remittance. is very much in progress, but unfortunately no announcements to make so far. And we hired 2 more people for the direct support team this week. So they're starting next week. They have an onboarding, but yeah, direct is growing like gangbusters. You guys are signing up more and more properties, need more support, and we want to keep the time for resolution and the time to answer you as low as possible, as fast as possible. So we are expanding that team, making sure you get good results from support. And with that, I will catch my breath and pass to Emily.
Thanks, Andrew. That was impressive. That was a lot of talking. Awesome. Okay. Hey, everybody. Good to see you today. All right. Let me give a quick update first on our parent-child feature. During our last town hall, we announced that we were moving into private beta. So we did that the day after, or I think it was actually moments before town hall. We sent out an email to a private pilot audience host who had signed up months in the past to get access to this, and we gave those hosts access to this early. Several of them configured parent-child relationships between their properties, and we had a very close eye on how all of that went. We monitored, and we made sure that there were no major issues during that time. The purpose of private beta is to find things, right? And so we found a handful of things and fixed them, and we've since launched this for all of our hosts who have beta features enabled, which is about 1/3 of our hosts. So it's a very large number. So if you want access to parent-child, you can get access now. Let me actually, okay, in the chat, I just put a help article all about parent-child, so you can read more and learn how to configure that if you're interested. So let me give a quick rundown of what this does. Parent-child allows you to configure relationships between properties. You can have 2 levels of relationships. This means you can have one parent, and your parent can have a lot of children, but your children cannot have children. So there's like a million analogies we could use here, but there's 2 levels. There are not 3 levels. So this is kind of the first version we're launching. If we see a high demand to support like another level of hierarchy, we'll consider that. But we think this is going to fit the bill for the majority of our hosts. We're supporting 2 different scenarios. So the first is typical. You have a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex, where you actually allow those individual units to be rented by separate groups of guests at the same exact time. We're supporting that. We're also supporting another strategy that many of our hosts use, where they have a really big house that they also list as kind of like smaller subsets of that house, maybe to try to fill up during the slow season or to optimize bookings on weekdays or whatever it may be. In that situation, you actually don't want like multiple groups of guests staying in your one house at the same time. So the blocking behavior is a little bit different there. Again, our help article goes into tons of detail about what all of that means for you, and we'll walk you through how to set that up. Once those relationships are defined, you can those properties will be grouped together on your multi-calendar view, so you'll always see them next to each other, and you'll be able to see like what's blocked off based on a reservation, understand where that came from, and that availability is going to be pushed to all of the platforms. So previously, we had lots of hosts who were using Airbnb's linked calendar feature and hoping that that would like get pushed across to all different channels, and it was just kind of high risk. It was slow getting that out to the other channels, and this is going to be much faster because the Hospitable calendar is managing that availability for you and pushing it out to the channels from there. Great. Okay, so next screen, please. Just a little bit more about our release plan. Private pilot done, release to beta host done. Our plan is to continue monitoring for the rest of the week and early next week and release this to everyone on January 31st. The goal that we've shared for the last couple of months is to have this done by the end of January. So we're just squeaking by. Last day of January, we're hoping to get this in everyone's hand. I want to give one more quick note I should have mentioned on the last slide, but there is some confusion and in the industry, really, people throw the term parent-child around and then they throw the term multi-inventory around, and a lot of times it gets jumbled. So I want to clarify what this is and what this isn't. Well, I described what it is, what it's not. So multi-inventory is where your guest can book multiple properties under one reservation. This is kind of like what you would expect if you go to make a booking at a hotel, right? You say, I'm making one booking for 2 rooms. This is not that. And our intention is not to support that with this feature. We've definitely heard some hosts ask for multi-inventory support, but we don't have a lot of upvotes on that on our roadmap. So if you're interested in that, and you want to talk about it and you want to see us research that and potentially support it one day, please do share your support of that on FeatureBase, upvote that, so we can have those conversations, because at this point we haven't seen a ton of demand, but we've definitely heard people talk about it. So I just wanted to be clear about the fact that Parent-Child is not intending to support that scenario. That's really a different feature that's going to have a whole different set of capabilities, maybe in the future. Okay, let's move on to other core updates. Okay, first, smart lock update. So our backup codes and always-on code communication is now being enabled for all users. This is something that's been enabled for beta users for quite some time, and even before that for a private pilot. And here's a little bit more about how this works. It's going to be on for everyone by default. If you have smart locks and you're using smart locks, and we know that you have not shared the code with the guest by their check-in time, we're going to communicate that code for you. Our goal here is to make sure that the guest can always get in. Another scenario is if we see that you've shared the code with the guest, but check-in time has arrived and we've since had to change that code for some reason, or the code has failed, or we need to use a backup code, we'll then communicate the functioning code with the guest. So we might change the code and then communicate that with the guest. But the goal is so that the guest always has an accurate code at the time of check-in. If you're using AutoHost to verify your guest, there's a way to prevent that code from getting sent out if the guest has not been verified. So we've thought of that use case. We've heard tons of great feedback from our hosts that said, we don't want the guest to get the code if they have not gone through that AutoHost guest verification process. So that's good. We're handling that use case and accounting for that. We do still want to give you some level of control, because obviously this is your property. You want to keep it safe. And sometimes you have a gut feeling you don't want to let the guest in for whatever it may be. So we just want to let you know that if you do not want that code to get sent to the guest for any reason, you can manually delete that code in the app, and we're not going to send any backup codes in that instance. That's kind of your like big red button if you need to cancel for any reason, or you can cancel the reservation and we will not send the code. Awesome. Okay, next up for smart locks, we're working on a new question category so that if a guest says that they're locked out, you can configure an answer to go to the guest that contains the code in that instance. And then we're also working on our device's dashboard. This is super exciting. This is actually in a private pilot now for select hosts. The goal of the device's dashboard is for you to be able to see all of your devices. Notice we're not saying smart locks because maybe we have some more cool devices coming, but the goal is to see all of your devices on a single dashboard and be able to make some decisions about those in real time. So you can kind of look at all the reservations, and if you see a bunch of green, like you're good, your codes are in a good place, your guest has what they need, everything is good. But also be able to take action from there, resending codes, all that stuff. So again, we're in the early days of this device dashboard now, piloting this with a private group of hosts, and you can expect to hear a lot more details about that in future town halls and eventually when we share that with our beta hosts as well. Okay. Other improvements, these are some kind of smaller but really helpful things. This week we shipped something on our single calendar view. So many of our hosts have multiple properties, so probably don't see this calendar often, but this is the view of a single property, the calendar view. And in our multi-calendar, we've had this little moon icon, which has our minimum length of stay for that particular day. And we just never put that on the single calendar. So now we have. So if you see the moon icon, you can see 2. That means that if the guest starts their booking on that day, they have to book 2 nights. You can hover over it and see those details there. In addition to that, you can now hover over any day and the note will pop up. That was working at one point, stopped working, now it's working again. And then another improvement that we have coming soon is image upload in the inbox. So this is in beta for Airbnb right now. You can upload an image and share that with your guests in the conversation. And other channels are soon going to follow, and then we'll start thinking about what additional file types we can support from there. Okay, next one. So we're doing a little bit of research, and we would really like to get your help. This one is about guest verification. Okay, so I typically work on the platform team at Hospitable, which is a little bit more behind the scenes. We focus a lot on our public API and vendor partnerships and basically empowering them to build really great integrations for you guys really quickly. So in the simplest form, the platform team is hoping to give you more apps, right? But it's a lot more than just like a bunch of apps available to you. we really want to give you access to all these services that would be difficult to get otherwise. And one thing we've heard a lot of demand for is guest verification. So we have some polls, and I'd like to put the polls up, and I can talk a little bit about the question that we're asking and the answers that we're hoping to get from you. And we'd love to hear your thoughts to help us in our research. Okay, so guest verification. So which of these guest verification features would you use as a host in addition to what Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com is already kind of doing for you? We've got basic ID collection and verification where, you know, the guest uploads their ID and someone confirms, yep, that is them. Authority reporting. This isn't super common in the US, but in a lot of other countries, some jurisdictions actually require that like the host have the ID and report that to their authorities. That's another option. Sex offender checks, background checks, credit checks. There's a whole lot that can come with guest verification. And we're curious to hear like, which of these things do you need as a host and would you use in addition to what the platforms are already providing to you? Of course, if it's not important to you, say it's not important to you. And if there's something else, you can throw that in the chat as well. Next, if guest verification features were offered to you like on an ad hoc basis, how would you leverage them? So there's a ton of guest verification platforms out there. Would you require that all of your guests get verified no matter what? Would that be something you apply across the board? Or maybe you're only going to verify a guest if, you know, your authority requires it. So for example, in Arizona, you have to do a sex offender check. Maybe you only want to do that because it's required by law. Would you only verify guests if it's over a certain booking value? Would you kind of just go based on your gut? Maybe there's been a red flag in a conversation and you're like, oh, I want to check this guest out and make sure that they are who they say they are. How would you use that? We would love to see. So yeah, Miles, I don't know if we've had a lot of answers here yet. I know it's a lot to read through. But
yeah, there's a good 43% so far have responded, but
cool.
The results are still flying in. So let's maybe just give it 20 more seconds or so.
Yeah. Sounds good. And then what I'll say while we're waiting on some extra answers, obviously research is more than just getting your answers to these simple questions. So I have a Calendly link that I'm going to share in the chat. I would love to hear from our hosts who are currently doing guest verification or who, you know, want it and hear like what your specific use case is. And we can kind of gather requirements that way. So I'm sharing that in the chat. You can book some time with me and we can chat one-on-one after this as well.
Yeah, and some people brought up a use case that we weren't highlighting is that you can use guest verification with a lot of vendors to get rental agreements and to put blocks on, getting that. And so that would be one avenue we could look at. I think we want to explore different avenues as well, but that is another option that guest verification can bundle your rental agreement.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome shout out.
Great. I think we've slowed down now, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everyone.
All right, let's see. All right, looks like 88% of you want to do just basic ID collection and verification, but there's a good bit of hosts, about half, that also want to do background checks and sex offender checks. Awesome. And I'm actually surprised by the answer to the next question. Looks like most of you would require that all guests are verified no matter what. That's great. Awesome. Okay, thank you guys for your participation in that poll. Again, my Calendly link is in the chat, so please schedule additional time if you have some insights to share there, and we'd love to get your thoughts. And that's all we have for today. I think we're going to open it up for Q&A at this point.
We are indeed. Thank you very much, Emily. So as Andrew said at the start, please don't bombard us with too many Vrbo questions. We've said how much we can really say at this point at the start. If you didn't catch that, feel free to go over to our YouTube channel to check out the recording. We currently have a fix in place. As Andrew mentioned, we're pushing Vrbo to try and get an official integration that works for us and works for hosts. Andrew is meeting the Vrbo team in Madrid tomorrow, and hopefully he'll have more updates after that. So just kind of flagging that. If you didn't hear those updates, maybe after the session, go back to the start of the YouTube video and check them out there. He gives a bit more of detail around that. So that being said, moving over to folks that have found their hands raised. So welcoming Andy on stage. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Miles, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Great. Yeah, so just a quick question. So love to see the quotes feature. One thing that would be very helpful on that is to actually see the quote information up front instead of having to put in the guest information before. We have folks that we may have calling us or something like that, and we try to give a quote that way. So if we have to type in a whole bunch of information, that slows everything down, if only just to give a simple price. So that would be huge. And then
Yeah, no, I replied to you in the chat. That's a fantastic idea. And that is something we've been chatting about internally on the product team is, yeah, as soon as you select any dates on the calendar, we should be able to generate a quote for you just in that side panel without ever having to go to add a booking. So thanks for calling that out. And yeah, we'll try and get that action for you.
cool. And then there's just a whole bunch of questions always around percentage-based discounts. I know you'll have fixed price specific discounts, but
Yep.
sounds like several of us are really, really looking forward to that. I know there's the feedback portal. Folks are like, hey, give that a thumbs up. And I guess I don't know if this feedback portal is getting updated by your product team. It still says the status is new, but the comments make it seem like y'all are in progress with this. So I don't know if that ever gets like updated or anything like that. So
Yeah.
that would just be helpful to kind of
Cool.
understand like what's going on with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some weeks that start and I think we're going to do it, and then that week ends and we haven't done it yet, to be fair. But yeah, we do get this mentioned, I think, every town hall, and we are going to eventually do it, and we'll probably just, yeah, rip off something from the schedule and get it done in a day. But yeah, otherwise it's just hard to see that as yeah, a higher priority than some of the projects we're working on, but I get it. It's useful. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you we're not going to do it. I can't give you a date. We will get it done, and I understand the priority on that.
Yeah, it pretty much makes quoting quite useless to us, to be quite honest, because we can't give a repeat guest discount or a new guest discount or anything like that, or folks who are, if we want to take the hit on the service fee because we advertise in sites that say there's no service fees. So having that discount sort of thing in there is really, really, really quite huge.
I mean, to be clear, you do have promo codes and you do have the ability to completely customize a quote.
So with promo codes, I haven't seen that we can still do them as percentage based.
No, you cannot. You cannot. There are some tricks, like you can do multiple promo codes. And so if you want like a 3-day, a 4-day, a 5-day discount or a spend over 1,000 and get a different, you can kind of hack that. And I don't like to keep mentioning that. I know people want percentages. They don't want the hack. There are reasons why percentages are harder for us, and harder for the industry that just wants them to apply to nightly rates. But yeah, on the quote, you're completely up to just whatever, if you want 10%, you can put whatever price you want in the quote.
Okay. Yeah. If we can customize that, and that makes that fine. So that's good. Cool. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm stepping in. Hello, everyone. I have the actually, I wanted to have Andrew because obviously we are still having a lot of questions about the percentage-based discount. Can we get that again recorded so that we can have a good soundbite that we can share every time, Andrew?
I mean, you're not giving us a good soundbite here. You're breaking up.
I'm sorry, I'm getting. Oh no!
What would you like me to say?
I'm sorry for that. I'm just
for the
asking,
record?
like, what are the reasons behind?
Yeah.
For the
So the reasons
and is there any doubt?
Yeah. I'm starting to doubt the reasons. I think we can just smash through this and not care about the reasons based on the feedback from hosts. The reasons why we have been hesitant to do it is because there are fees bundled in the nightly rate. Hosts have told us they only want the percentage discount to apply to the nightly rate. And so if you give a guest a 10% discount and they go to put in the promo code and it turns out it looks like a 7% discount or a 6% discount, how do you handle that? How do you have good messaging? How do you not make the guest turn into a support ticket asking, why is my promo code broken? It's only giving me $200 off. It should be $300. That's why and again, I think going back a few months when we thought we would be looking more at like how to bundle the service fees, we haven't gotten to that yet. But if we were to bundle the service fees in as well, again, that gets an increasingly bigger gap between what the promo code is going to look like when you tell them what it's worth and what it turns out to be worth, because we've now bundled service fees, we've bundled potentially taxes, we've bundled all these things into a nightly rate because we want direct to be a non-fee channel. There's no fees. It just makes that percentage-based promo code a little bit complicated. And yeah, at this point, I want to stop saying no and just say yes and create it. But those are things that we try to think about and try to have a good user experience with. And it's a little bit complicated, but there.
Good soundbite. Very clear. Thank you, Andrew. So now inviting Tony on stage to ask your question. Hello, Tony.
Hey guys, continue to be amazed how you guys hear the host and what features, and going to be excited to keep using Hospitable. I currently use Lock-in Home smart locks, if you've ever heard of them, to generate offline codes. So I was wondering if that can be added to the vendor list for smart locks.
Ooh, good question. I'm excited to answer this one. Yes, so our API is public, meaning anybody can build to it. They do need to get permission, but we say yes to almost everyone as long as we think it's in the best interest of our host. I've never spoken with them before, so what I would encourage you to do, Tony, is have them reach out to us, and we can start that conversation. A little tidbit that I'll share with you. We obviously have our own smart locks that we support in Hospitable, but we have a lot of other customers and hosts who are using different smart lock providers, and we'd love for them to be able to integrate as well and also share those codes through the smart lock shortcode. So we're having some conversations about that. There's some things we need to be very careful about, and it's a little bit complicated, but nothing we can't solve. But our goal is for you as a host to be able to say like, no, I don't like that smart lock provider anymore. I want to switch because I'm going to have a better experience with this lock, and be able to switch without making any changes to your messaging. So yeah, to answer your question, have them reach out if you have a contact there, or post it maybe in the chat the name of that company again, so I can look them up myself and we can start those conversations.
Sure. All right, will do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony. Currently we don't have any more hands raised. So just a reminder, folks, you can use the reaction button at the bottom. In there is a raise hand button that'll allow you to flag to us that you want to come on stage, ask a question. You can, of course, also use the written Q&A functionality to type out your question if you prefer. And we now have a couple of people joining us. Brett, welcoming you on stage. Hello.
How are you doing? I did leave a question in the chat, but just kind of wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on what the upcoming accounting features, maybe owner portals situation, to see if we can get that added in.
This is where I'm expecting Pierre to jump in, but this is kind of his baby. I don't know if
this is kind of my baby. Thank you very much. We're working on birthing it. So it's a challenge. But yeah, owner's portal, owner statements, accounting integration, and the ability to pay owner is something that I'm working on in between a few other projects. I think we have found a great partnership with VR Platform, which is the best in-class product in the space. So they run really a lot of owner statements for their property management customers. And so we want to basically work with them, co-building a solution and that will be within Hospitable, where we generate and do all the work with the heavy lifting that's already existing through VR Platform. So it's difficult for me to talk about it. We asked a poll survey to our customers on panel. I think it was 1 or 2 sessions ago, to ask basically what software accounting integration you're using. It turns out that QuickBooks is definitely a clear winner. So I'm talking to them to try and get a pilot as soon as possible by the end of the quarter. There are lots of question marks on how that would work. So don't keep my word for it, but it's something we're looking into this quarter, yes.
That's great. Thanks so much. Looking forward to it.
Anyone can confirm you guys heard me? Because the connection is not great. Okay.
Thank you very much for your question there, Brett.
And one I can answer live from the chat asking, does direct booking have a solution for pets? We do. It's in the property search widget. It's in the booking widget. It's in the quotes. You'll have access to all of those. You do need to have a pet fee, I think, set on your Airbnb listing that's attached to that, and then we'll pull that in, and we will charge for pets. If you have someone that tells you after you've made a booking that they're bringing a pet, you can always use an ad hoc charge to request the collection of that fee from them.
Cool. Thank you very much. So next up on stage, we have Monique. Hello.
Hey there. Just a couple of questions. Since you guys were short on questions, I thought I would ask my quick little questions here instead of putting them in chat. So checkout time. When you change the checkout time for a guest, so I changed it like to 4 hours later, and then I went in because I still wanted that checkout message to go out in the morning instead of like in the afternoon. And I thought I changed it to the, morning time to like 7 a.m. And then come to find out, I don't know if that rule where it's, send it 4 hours before my guest checks out, like overrode it, or is that supposed to be how it works? Like if I go in and I change the time also for the message to be sent, it shouldn't get overwritten again, right? Maybe I did something wrong, but I just wanted to confirm like that's the functionality.
So yeah, let me try and get an answer. When you change the checkout time, it should change the messaging of all the messages that follow. So it's going to be adjusted based on the new time, and that's done live. But you can also adjust the messaging of an individual message.
Right.
So that's basically a manual modification on that message itself.
Yeah, and I did that manual modification because I still wanted it to go out in the morning, but then it didn't work. And this was for 2 guests, so I was like, "Wow, did I do it wrong twice?" I didn't think I did, but that's how it should work, right? If I manually edit those messages.
Normally, yes, with a save button. So it would basically lock in the time. It would lock in the message. I don't know, because it's not an area we've been doing a lot of work recently.
There's potentially a gap there where if you edited any of the content in those messages, they wouldn't pick up a time update from the change in your checkout. But that doesn't sound like what happened. It sounds like you edited the time of the message itself. So
yes,
I think we need to look at it, because otherwise we're going to terrorize a lot of things.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I was like, okay, I did this twice. I didn't edit anything in the message. It only did the time, and it still went back to that, send out at 12 o'clock or whatever. And I wanted it sent out at 7. So anyway, just something for you guys to maybe look at, put on your list. Second, I did send this one to support, but since I have all of you guys here, I thought I would ask. I was looking at the new metric dashboard and looking at the taxes that you guys are reporting, and I compared it to my Airbnb report. And it seems like, and I don't know if this is something you're going to fix or this is how you guys want it to work, but it seems like the cleaning fee is not included with the revenue. So it's not, the taxes are not matching what Airbnb is reporting, because Airbnb is including the cleaning fee as part of the revenue and calculating that for the taxes that are being remitted to the county or the city. Is that how it's supposed to look? Like it's not supposed to match Airbnb, or?
No, the goal is to match Airbnb, and that is some feedback we've gotten since getting metrics out the door, is that we still have a bit of work, I think, to also kind of reconcile data points across all platforms so that it makes sense. I think there's, like, if you look at like the subtotal or the base amount, there's some work we're doing to just improve the clarity of that data, and we want them to work cross-platform and be the same. Cool. It's not always possible, but yeah, specifically the cleaning fee from Airbnb has been brought up before, and I know the team is working on that. Okay, cool. Just wanted to see if that's something. And just a comment, I know you guys talked a lot about, and you said not to mention VRBO. I'm not going to bring up issues, but I just wanted to bring up, like, I had tried a different PMS, still using Hospitable for messaging. And I did that official VRBO integration. The transfer process was not that bad. I had to, know kind of what that process was like, but it did not take weeks. Literally took like less than 5 days.
So that wasn't bad, but I hated the integration itself. I did not like it. So I just ended up disconnecting it and transferring my properties back. But I just wanted to give you guys that feedback because I know you guys had mentioned a few times, like the integration process can take a while. And I think it can for people that maybe don't understand or know the process, but it was really, really quick.
When you say transfer, do you mean like you were able to like transfer hosting or ownership of a listing and like transfer your reviews that you built up to another owner? What do you mean?
No, the transfer. So, when you go from like a regular VRBO listing and then you go to the official integration, they actually have to, I don't know, move it to like that official integration. I don't know what they call it. It's owned by them or something, right? I don't know what that's called.
That's the part where the implementation agent at Vrbo is basically mapping manually your listings over to that PMS after making sure that everything has been onboarded. I hear you. I know they've been doing quite a few progress in the past few years. Go ahead, Mike.
So anyway, I had to move that listing from however it's hosted from like your personal over to the official integration. And I know it's scary to like bring it back from the official integration back to like a personal. And again, like I think as long as you know the process, which that PMS system that I was using did not, I just basically went straight to Vrbo. And to the Vrbo integration support. They were fantastic. They helped me kind of move the whole process along. So it did not take weeks. It literally took less than 5 days. I want to even say it took like maybe 3 days, if that. And then moving the listing from, being on a personal over to the official integration. And then once I was done and I was like, I want to disconnect it and move it back. That was pretty painless too, just because of the Vrbo support, basically, like their special integration support. That was like top notch. The PMS system itself that I was working with, that was non-existent, like no support there whatsoever. So anyway, I just wanted to give you feedback on that because it didn't take me weeks and I didn't get stuck like I've heard other hosts have.
Cool. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, no problem. And that's it.
I just want to add that they're really, I think you may have looked at another PMS. You may have, how many properties do you currently have?
I currently have 9.
9. So 50% of our users have 1 or 2 properties. So, at that number that you get, 5 days, you manage expectation and that works. Our fear is that we're currently in a state of Vrbo. I should probably not talk about that too much because Andrew covered that in the beginning, and thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's just that we are working with a different type of customer that need to have a software solution to their problems anyway. That's the property owners, the hosts, the self-managers. And we know very well that we have 1 hour, and when I mean 1 hour is 15 minutes, for our software to show a benefits to that end user, which happens to also be the buyer. 3 days is an eternity in that kind of rollout. 5 days is, absolutely, that customer has already tried 3 other PMSs in the time. So if we want to drive value, we need to do it within that first hour. And so we appreciate the change that have been happening on Vrbo side. So there was a minimum of 5 to be talked to. They started rolling it out and making it more scalable. For us, that's basically the process that we're looking at when we look at Vrbo Official is migrating 5% of Vrbo's total inventory over to Hospitable. This is something that we need to have an answer on. How is that technically possible? With realistic expectations and making that a success, because we want to have a pleasurable experience in that process, nothing painful. So that's what we are advocating for with Vrbo. We hope we can make progress on that particular item, and that's with their senior leadership.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what you guys can do with them. So just really cool that you guys are having that meeting. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Monique.
Let's manage expectations about what can be achieved in one meeting. But yes, hoping for good things. Miles, do we have people in the queue, or I've got a couple that I can answer live?
We have a bunch in the queue as well.
Okay.
But if you want to,
I can take them on, just text them. That's fine.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you. So next up we have Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, thanks. Enjoying the conversation. Quick question, and maybe other people deal with this too. I get a notification.
Sorry,
from
Aaron,
Hospitable.
you're breaking up a bit
And I
too
live in
much.
fear that.
Sorry, Aaron, I think you might have to write
Sorry,
out
can you hear
your
me now?
question.
All right.
You try again? No, okay. Sorry about that, Aaron. Yeah, if you type out your question, you were breaking up a bit too much for us to hear what you're asking there, unfortunately. Next on stage, inviting Renee. Hello, Renee.
Hey, how you doing? Something that is very frustrating for me, like every time I use Hospitable, is just the navigation of if I want to quickly look at February of 2025, I seem to only be able to scroll for like 4 or 5 months from the current. And then I have to like enter in the date in the calendar. Am I missing something? Or is there a way to quickly scroll beyond a 3-month period?
Hey, Renee, how's it going? I remember chatting with you last week.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, right now we do allow you to scroll a certain period forward. I want to say it's, you could go to February 2025 in your single calendar, but I think in the multi-calendar view, it does stop after a couple of months.
It's the multi-calendar view because I have several properties. That's
Right.
the view I look at. And Airbnb allows you to do it. It seems, just based on the tech that I know, that should be an easy fix. But it's something that I'm always doing. I'm always like, I'll get a VRBO request for next year. I'll get, I want to check, next winter, how's things looking. And it's like, it's a multi-step process for something that should be literally just sliding across or scrolling down. Is that something
I hear you
have on the list? Or I don't know if others think.
When we chatted last week, I took some really good notes of our conversation because you gave so much great feedback when you were walking through and sharing your screen and showing me how you use Hospitable. So I took some really good notes, and I'll make sure to share that with the rest of the team, because some of those things are sure to be quick wins. Some of them might be a little more complicated than they seem on the surface, but we can definitely take a look at some of those usability things that might be quick wins.
Great, thanks.
Cool. Thank you very much for your question, Renee. Okay, so now moving on, we have Evan up next. Hello, Evan. Welcoming you on stage.
Hey, everybody. I had a question about taxes and direct premium. Currently, Avalara has the incorrect taxes set for my properties. And I did open up a ticket on January 8th, but it has been escalated a couple times. But we just still haven't got any answers on if we could modify those taxes. So I was wondering, will hosts ever be able to modify the tax rates for properties in direct premium?
Modify, no. I think what we'd like to do is allow you to give us feedback on the product so it's faster to action. But with premium, we're the merchant of record. So we can't, no offense, but just take your feedback that the tax is wrong. We actually have to do a pretty thorough investigation to figure that out. And our support team probably asked you for supporting evidence and those things. And those unfortunately do take quite a bit of time to action because we have to be 100% sure that we're making the right decision, not just on a host advice, but I was on a phone call with the Department of Revenue in Tennessee on Monday. So there is quite a bit of liability and concern on our side when we make a change and overrule tax software that was designed to do this correctly. So yeah, I hear your frustration. I will try to do what I can to escalate your ticket. We have a few where we need to do those. But really it's like we need to grow that team because that demand on kind of investigating these things it's grown beyond what I think our team can handle right now. And they are complex. It takes a lot of time to overrule the tax software and be comfortable with that decision. What jurisdiction are you in? Just like state?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have had that escalated to me. So I'll see what I can do. But it's a big ask, because of the position or the premium, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you for providing more insight on that. That makes more sense now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Evan. Okay, so next up we have Andy. Hello, Andy.
Hey, Miles. Yeah, so Andrew, you were mentioning about the direct booking pet stuff, and we just got a direct booking today on that, and someone in there was mentioning pets, and I was like, why wasn't this marked as pets inside of the booking itself? And you were mentioning that the only way that happens is if we add a pet fee, which we don't have pet fees anymore. So I was curious as to why that was very specifically tied to pet fees and not just something that they could just say, yes, we have pets.
I don't think I meant to communicate that. I think it should work. I mean, so when you make a booking, there is a guest count, and that includes pets. And it may be that they just didn't add the pet to the count. I think we would display it even regardless of a fee. I could be wrong. I haven't tested that specific condition of we don't have a pet fee. Do I still see pets? I think you should. But I could be wrong on that. So I'll go test that after this. But it could very well be that the guest just didn't add the pet to the booking. Is that possible?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. They had mentioned it specifically in their comments, so that's why I was very curious about that. I figured they probably would have done that, but I haven't been able to test the direct flow myself. So
yeah, have a test and then do escalate it to me, please, or to support team if you don't see it. But yeah, the expectation is the guest should put it in the count, and then you will see in the left sidebar in the reservation, you'll see the pet count next to the paw. You'll see the count there from what they tell you, regardless of whether or not you have a feed. That's how it should be working. So let me know if we've made a mistake there.
Will do. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Andy. So now next on stage we have Josh. Hello, Josh.
Hey, how's it going? I was just asking if from the alerts from booking.com, I see that in the payout section you have all of the financial data for every reservation, but for some reason the payout short code still isn't working. So I was wondering if there was an update on that.
Ooh. Great question. I'm not sure about the short code, but I can tell you that we are working on improving our payment details that we're displaying when you're looking at the inbox on the reservation, to give more information there, what we're getting from the OTAs, when we're getting it, and make it something that's like easy to add up yourself, because right now it's a little bit jumbled and every OTA is a little bit different.
Sure.
So if you could, have you submitted that to support at any point?
Last year, actually.
Oh.
and I understand what you're talking about and where you're going. I guess my point is just on a simple front, I have an email that I set up and send out to all of my clients that just says, hey, we received a booking, the payout is X. And it works for all of the other OTAs, but booking.com just sends a blank. So I just send them an email, just lets them know they got a booking, and it just creates an unnecessary communication into my team to find out how much it was. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I can look into that more specifically, and I'm gonna shoot you a message individually as well. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, and we can talk after the town hall. I'll shoot you a message.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Josh. And so finally, Taraj, I think your question may have been answered in the Q&A, but I'm welcoming you on stage in case it hasn't been. Hello, Taraj. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. Actually, my question was answered in the chat.
Okay, no worries. Easy
Thank
peasy.
you.
Thank you very much. Great. So that is actually all the questions that we had today. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. For our next town hall, a couple of us will actually be in Nashville at the SDR Wealth Conference. So it's going to be an interesting setup for myself, Andrew, and Alyssa. If anyone is interested in checking out that conference, I've just dropped a link to that in the chat. Encourage you to go and check it out. It's going to be a conference of, I think, around 3,000 hosts in Nashville, Tennessee. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a few of you there live and in person. And if you're not live and in person there, we'll see you on the town hall, same time, same place in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.